I'm Tariku Shiferaw, and today I'm the face of America. My name is Tariku Shiferaw. I'm an artist. I was raised in Los Angeles, California, born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and currently live and work in New York City. I realized I was an artist when I was 17 years old. Upon having already taken like a year of like this art class, but it was not necessarily the art making that made me think that I was an artist. It was the thinking behind it, the way you think. So I remember Marco Elliott, a French-born American artist who was my teacher at the time, was always encouraging his students to think outside of the box, not to be cliche, but to really not allow the system to dictate the way you think, not to have a uniform thinking. And upon realizing what he was getting at, I think for years probably. So I said, I realized I was an artist at 17, but it was not really until my adulthood that I realized, oh, I'm finally, deploying these ideas and thoughts that I had. I've had different artists that I was inspired by throughout different stages of my life and my career. But one that really stands out is John Baldessari, where his, I'm a painter. I identify myself as a painter first, and then other sorts of art. So like, I think a lot of us have started in painting, but his works in the 1960s, where he started challenging the idea of painting by writing onto the surface of the canvas, was another example of like not thinking in that uniform pattern of society, right? So painting does not necessarily have to be a painting or the way we've always thought about it. So the idea of like this oppositional thinking, but like this conceptual thought, not only applied onto painting, but beyond that, like within the way we exist in societal structure. But along him, is Julie Moretu, Jack Whitten, I would say even Alma Thomas from previous generation. But David Hammons is like one of, like, hands down, like one of my favorite artists, and Titus Kaphar, who did this Jerome series of like half covered faces with like black tar looking paint, I believe. And so in his work, he talked about like he dealt with the idea of like the prison system, and I'm not gonna go too deep into his work, but like the fact that these artists were doing like some great works was extremely inspiring to my practice, to think about how I think of making art and existing within the society that we exist in. Is art political, or are humans political? Like, we are very political to our core. Like the fact that you and I exist and we're talking on this Zoom call right here, we're very, by nature, we're very political. And so whenever I make a gesture, whether it's on canvas or it's a video art or sound art, it's already political, it's politicized. I think Michel Foucault talks about how politics operate in ways of human bodies and population, right? And so government is one form of politics that is clearly identified as political, but just the way you and I, government would not be around if there's no population. And therefore, you and I are very political. And so when I make art, it's already in its political nature. And so it's just a matter of accepting it. So what's hidden behind my horizontal bars is nothing but paint. In my work and in making these horizontal gestures that you see throughout the surface of the canvas, or the plastic or the vinyl, is something that has so many different meanings. My whole concept of, first of all, geometric forms is that they have had so much meanings throughout different times in history, different, groups of people, different religions, different societies, that they don't mean anything until you imply something with them, until you assign a meaning to them. And so in this gesture of these horizontal forms in my paintings, you know, it was initially inspired by my interest in creating this dialectical relationship between this historical painterly gesture that is in the background of my paintings, and then these hard-edged black bars that go against that background. And to me, I was thinking about history, right? Like the mid 20th century abstract expressionism, where conversations about painting and painterly gestures and marking the surface was very interesting at that time. While I am interested in it, and I question myself, what does it mean to do similar things in 2021 right now? But for me, I was just thinking more along the lines of what about the other artists in mid 20th century during the ABEX movement that were othered, that were left out, that were erased, that were sort of canceled, that were never recognized, whether it's galleries, museums, or publications, or even, critics that write about these artists, including schools. Will leave people out, people of color out, especially Black artists in that time, out of the canon, out of history. So in a way, these gestures that I place on were a way of marking oneself into this history, a way of asserting oneself, right? Reclaiming a space or a place that was taken away, or sort of just almost a performative gesture, an action. So in that way, I wanted the works to engage that kind of dialogue